Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel for another ancient coin discussion. Today we're going to look at a drachma, a tetradrachma, and two silver staters. Now, as I've said before, later on in this series, we will be seeing and handling original coinage from the era. However, some of the earliest coins and specimens that we wish to look at, like we are today, are high-quality museum remakes, and the reason for that is the prohibitive cost of obtaining an original like these that we can handle and look at. And these museum copies are often around $20. So it's a little bit cheaper to handle, look at, and they're often silver plated like these, silver plated, and the gold ones gold plated. So you still get the look, the feel. They're struck to the same specifications, the same sizes, and most of the details are all identical to an original, other than they're obviously lighter because they're not made with a solid precious metal. Now the first coin today that we're going to look at, it's a drachma. You should be familiar with the word, its origins. We've talked about it. If you wish to go back in this series, there's two videos where we talk about drachmas and staters, and the first drachma we look at, and we really go into detail on the types of goods and services, the purchasing power of a coin like this, the origins of the name. And this first one, it's an ancient Greek drachma, and this one is from the time period of around 323 BC. Now on the obverse, you'll see the head of Alexander. He's wearing the lion's scalp. On the reverse, you will see Zeus sitting on a throne, holding a scepter, and in front field a monogram or a mint symbol of Magnesia, and that is the region where it was struck. Magnesia, Thessaly. Now the name Magnesia is derived from the name of the first settlers in the region, the Magnetes. The geographic size of Magnesia encompasses about 750 square miles. In mythology, Pelion was the place that was chosen by the gods of Olympus for their summer vacations, their festivities, and their ceremonies. The marriage between Pelia and Thetis took place here, and Homer, Pandaros, and Euripides spoke of this in their stories. Pelion was also home of the centaurs, the half-horse and the half-man creatures, with the most famous being the centaur Chiron. Chiron was a very intelligent being and was a teacher to Achilles and Hercules, as well as having taught medicine to Asclepios. These Greek names are always difficult for me. Asclepios. It was also from Pelion that the boat Argos set sail to Kolchiva with Jason. If you're all familiar with the story Jason and the Argonauts, it was one of my favorite movies as a young boy. It's an old one. You know, the special graphics and special effects aren't what they are today, but it's a phenomenal film. I highly recommend the movie Jason and the Argonauts. Again, this is from that region, which is, you know, incredible. When this is where he set sail from. Set sail to Kolchiva with Jason and the Argonauts on board, looking for the Golden Fleece. Archaeological research in the area has brought to light Mesolithic findings. In the areas of Sesklo and Dimini, Neolithic artifacts and ancient ruins were discovered. Researchers also discovered Mykenaiki cities spread throughout the whole of Magnesia, which in their time were very prosperous cities in Greece. Now this next coin we're going to spend a little bit more time on. This is a fascinating piece. This is a Macedon tetradrachma from 336 BC, also featuring Alexander III, also known as Alexander the Great, as you can see wearing the lion's cap on the obverse of the coin. It's about 27 millimeters in diameter, silver plated. Again, this is another museum restrike. And on the reverse, notice you'll see Zeus sitting on the throne, holding the scepter, very similar to the last drachma we just looked at. And in the front field, you'll see a rose flower. Now, if you're interested, there are originals of this very coin online available. They're quite expensive, but they are beautiful, incredible detail, and an amazing piece of human history. Let's read about this one a little bit further, this Macedonian Tetradrachma from 336 BC. Just contemplate that date for a minute, how long this piece of silver would have existed, and they do exist. There's many of them that you can get. Now, Macedonia was an ancient Greek kingdom. The kingdom, centered in the northeastern part of the Greek peninsula, was bordered by Epirus to the west, Paeonia to the north, the region of Thrace to the east, and Thessaly to the south. The rise of Macedon from a small kingdom at the periphery of classical Greek affairs to one which came to dominate the entire Hellenic world occurred under the reign of Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great. Alexander was probably the ruler who had the most prolific number of coins issued under his authority. They were minted in many denominations in base metals as well as silver and gold. They were issued from mints throughout the world that he conquered. Attribution of these mints is difficult as their mint marks are figures or monograms, and the minter is likewise represented by monograms. Some have been attributed by the finding of hoards in specific locales. This is a silver tetradrachma issued in the name of Alexander the Great. It's a posthumous issue, which means he was deceased at the time of its striking, and you can tell that by the legs being crossed on Zeus on the reverse. The obverse has a laureated bust of Heracles in a lion's pelt. The reverse has Zeus sitting on a backless throne with a bird on his right arm and holding a staff in his left. The Greek legend Alexander is to the right. There is a monogram of an A or an alpha, looks like an arrow pointed upwards, and a symbol under the right arm and the monogram under the throne. Now, we've discussed drachmas in earlier videos and even touched on the tetradrachma, their purchasing power and the values. And we came to realize that most citizens at the time, most workers, earned about 1 drachma per day. And this was one of the largest silver coins ever struck up until the Middle Ages, when the Wachamstallers, the origins of where the dollar came from, until those were struck, this was pretty much the largest silver coin humans had ever handled. The tetradrachma was an ancient Greek silver coin equivalent to, again, 4 drachma. In Athens, it replaced the earlier heraldic type of didrachmas, and it was in wide circulation from about 510 BC to 38 BC. The silver tetradrachma is believed to be the coin given to Judas for betraying Jesus. In Athens, the transition from didrachmas to tetradrachmas occurred during 525 to 510 BC. The abandonment of the heraldic type didrachmas and the archaic tetradrachmas, or the early owls, of the polis of Athens apparently took place shortly after the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC. This transition is supported by the discovery of contemporary coin hoards, and more particularly of a coin hoard found on the Acropolis in 1886. The Athenian tetradrachma was widely used in transactions throughout the ancient Greek world, including in cities politically unfriendly to Athens. Athens had silver mines in state ownership, which provided the bullion. Most well known were the silver mines of Laurium, at a close distance from Athens. The Athenian tetradrachma was stamped with the head of Athena on the obverse, and on the reverse the image of the owl of Athena. The iconographic symbol of the Athenian polis, with a sprig of olive and a crescent for the moon, according to Philochorus, it was known as Galaux, little owl, throughout the ancient world, and owl in present-day English language numismatics. The design was kept essentially unchanged for over 2 centuries, by which time it had become stylistically archaic. To differentiate their currency from the rival coinage of Aegina, Using the agenetic stater of about 12.3 grams, Athens minted its tetradrachma based on the Attic standard of 4.3 grams per drachma. The vast number of owl tetradrachmas available those days, mainly from the silver mines of Laurium, financed the several achievements of Athens, such as the reconstruction of the Acropolis and the building of the Parthenon, as well as many wars, including the Peloponnesian War. The tetradrachma's use as a currency was soon adopted by many other city-states of the ancient Greece, Asia Minor, Magna Graecia, and other Greek colonial cities throughout the Mediterranean Sea. With the armies of Alexander the Great, it spread to other Greek-influenced areas of Asia. Tetradrachmas were common as trade coins. The next coins, the two of them we're going to look at, are silver staters. We've looked at gold staters. Now these are silver, obviously going to carry a little bit less purchasing power than their gold counterparts. But this is a silver stater from the Magna Graecia region of Italy and Bruttium. Again, the Greeks occupied much of Italy at this time in history. And this coin originates from around 350 BC. Now here you see on the reverse the helmeted head of Athena facing left, and on the obverse you'll see a flying Pegasus flying towards the left there. This coin's approximately 22 millimeters in diameter, and again this is a museum reproduction, silver plated. Now Corinth, circa 350 BC. Corinth was occupied from at least as early as 6500 BC. Dorians settled there around 900 BC. In 733 BC, Corinth established colonies at Corcyra, modern Corfu, and Syracuse. By 730 BC, Corinth emerged as a highly advanced Greek city. Corinth rivaled Athens and Thebes in wealth. This is a silver stater from Corinth, issued anywhere from 350 to 307 BC. Again, the obverse has a Pegasus flying left with Kopa, an archaic Greek letter, often signifying a number below. The reverse has the head of Athena facing the left and a Corinthian helmet with a Greek letter below her and behind the neck. There is a partial image to the right, but most of this is off the placket. Now, further reading on these silver staters minted at Corinth, we've covered this in some of the earlier discussions, shows that these weighed approximately 8.6 grams, or a third of an ounce, 0.30 ounces in weight, and it was divided into 3 silver drachma of 2.9 grams, or a tenth of an ounce. It was often linked to the Athenian silver didrachma, which was 2 drachma, weighing about 8.6 grams, again, 0.30 ounces. In comparison, the Athenian silver tetradrachma that we just looked at earlier, or the tetradrachma with Alexander upon it, represented 4 drachma, and those weighed around 17.2 grams, about 0.61 ounces. Again, very close to, just under what a silver dollar you would think of the old silver dollar coins would come in at weighing. Staters were also struck in many of the different Greek city-states. We've discussed those as well. And of course, there also existed the gold staters, and those were much rarer and for much larger expenditures and costs at the time. Now this next coin, Greece, Italia, Calabria, Tarantum Nomos Dolphin Marine coin. This is another silver stater. This coin would have been minted in circa 270 BC, again in Italia. The obverse features a nude youth on horseback riding towards the left, crowning horse with a wreath. The reverse, Phalanthos riding a dolphin towards the left, holding a cantharos. Tarentum was founded in 706 BC by Dorian immigrants as the only Spartan colony, and its origin is peculiar. The founders were Parthenae, sons of unmarried Spartan women, and Perioeci, free men but not citizens of Sparta. Now these unions were decreed by the Spartans to increase the number of soldiers. Now only citizens of Sparta could become soldiers. And this occurred during the bloody Messenian Wars, but later they were nullified and the sons were forced to leave. According to legend, Phalanthus, the Parthian leader, went to Delphi to consult the oracle and received the puzzling answer that he should found a city where rain fell from a clear sky. After all attempts to capture a suitable place to found a colony failed, he became despondent, convinced that the oracle had told him something that was impossible, and was consoled by his wife. She laid his head in her lap and herself became disconsolate. When Philanthus felt her tears splash onto his forehead, he at last grasped the meaning of the oracle, for his wife's name meant clear sky. The harbor of Taranto in Apulia was nearby, and he decided this must be the new home for the exiles. The Parthenae arrived and founded the city, naming it Taras, after the son of the Greek sea god Poseidon and the local nymph Satyrion. The symbol of the Greek city, as well as the modern city, is Taras, riding a dolphin. Tarentum, now Taranto, increased its power, becoming a commercial power and a sovereign city of Magna Graecia, ruling over the Greek colonies in southern Italy. Now this really hits close to home for me because that's actually the region where a lot of my family is from. And it just, I don't know, it gives me chills, like the hair on my neck standing up, thinking that, very likely these could be some of my ancestors, because my family occupied a very small corner in a rural part of southern Italy since the beginning of time. I could share stories with you, but I won't. It's just incredible to me that, essentially some of my bloodline comes from this story right here. It's incredible. Now let's do some size comparison here as we close the video out. Here is the first drachma we looked at initially, and then you'll see a tetradrachma next to it, containing approximately 4 times the amount of silver. And then you'll see these staters that we just reviewed. There's the first stater and the second stater there. Again, those staters representing approximately, 3, or they're closest to about a didrachma, 2 drachmas in silver weight. And there's all 4 of them lined up together. A lot of wealth in the ancient world sitting there, a lot of purchasing power. Again, 1 little drachma for about a day's labor for most people. If you had this much silver in the palm of your hand, you could purchase a lot of things. A significant amount of purchasing power right there with just those 4 coins in your hands. Again, when you look at the silver you have today, 2,000 years later, 2,500 years later, consider for a minute just the size, the weight, and the purity of the silver you're holding in just 1 silver troy ounce, and what that would have been able to purchase you in the ancient world, the amount of purchasing power that silver held back then. It does give you hope for what could be coming in the future with silver, especially with the industrial. And this is, again, back then there was no industrial demands for it. These people wanted silver for jewelry, really. That was about it. It was shiny. It lasted a long time. It was malleable. It was a great unit of account, unit of exchange. It had all the attributes of money that we've often discussed, like Alan Greenspan's discussed in his letter on gold, the 1966 paper. Again, gold and silver have a lot of the same properties. And but back then, there wasn't any medicinal applications. There wasn't solar panels. They didn't have cell phones and computers and cruise missiles and all of the things that the modern world requires silver for, aside from the monetary stockpiling and the wealth preservation attributes that silver offers. There's a lot to it. So, again, you look back at the ancient world, you look back thousands of years ago, you think, hey, you know what, silver's been here a while. Silver's got a pretty good track record. I think it's going to be here a little bit longer, and who knows what we may see come in the future for silver as its role as coinage and money again. Until next time with this series, as we walk through coinage from the ancient days to today, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget, if you like this content, to like it. Hit a like down below. Share a comment. Join the conversation. Share the videos. And help this channel grow. Appreciate all of you that participate and take part in these videos, and the motivation and support that each one of you bring. that makes this channel just a good place to hang out and discuss these types of things. All right, have a good rest of your day and a good night.